So in the second question, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to read carefully, make sure that we understand what they're giving us, and then we'll analyze what they gave us to ensure that we know how to set up an equation that can help us with everything else. So it's worth noting, I'm going to make the equation first before I do things like the table or answer any of the questions at the bottom. In question number 2, it says we've got a rival bakery, so bakery theme here, and they've debuted a triple chocolate cookie to compete with the lady in number 1, so that's where that's going. It says that this new lady expects to sell 1,000 cookies initially. So again, I'm going to highlight that because initially is usually the 0 term in the table, and that's important to note so that way I know where that number goes. In fact, I can already fill it in if I want to. The initial value is always the 0 term, so I can put the 1,000 in the table right off the bat. And then she expects to sell an additional 150 cookies each week. Now, additional means it's going to increase, so I'll highlight that word additional just so that way I can keep thinking about the word increase. But it's important to note 150 is not a percentage. Remember how in the previous question we said that, oh, you can get a multiplier, it's increasing, you add the percentage. 150 is not a percentage. 150 is just 150 cookies. It's not a percent. So that means if it's not a percent, I'm not going to use this multiplier formula because that's not really what's going on here. She's not selling a percentage of cookies. She's selling 150 actual cookies. So while I promised I was going to do the equation first, I do actually want to make a quick note to myself. If she's selling 150 extra cookies, let's just think common sense. If she started out selling 1,000 cookies, the next week she's going to sell 150 more than that. That's just like saying add 150 into your total. So 1,000 plus 150 is 1,150. And if she's going to sell another 150 the week after that, that's just adding 150 more. So 1,150 plus 150 is 1,300. And it looks like that's just a really basic pattern. She's just adding 150 each time. We call that an arithmetic pattern. Because if you're adding the same number each time, adding is arithmetic, hence arithmetic. This is actually an arithmetic sequence. So remember how question number 1 was geometric? This one's different. This one's arithmetic. And if now you're thinking back going, oh my gosh, arithmetic, wait, when was that? Did I learn that? You can go back in your packet if you have all the old pages, or maybe in your scratch paper if you've been doing it in scratch paper. We actually have been doing arithmetic problems. One example of where we found some arithmetic stuff was on page 7. That was a whole page about arithmetic things. But we've been talking about the word arithmetic since way, way, way back. Even in page 3, way back at the beginning, we started looking at arithmetic sequences. And at the top of page 3, this was almost like a formula for arithmetic sequences. It says a template for the arithmetic sequence equation. And this template is basically kind of a formula for us. We need the initial value plus the adder times an n. So I'm going to copy that really quickly so I have a template for my equation. T of n equals initial, that's the initial value, we know that, plus the adder, which apparently we know, times n. So let's fill in these numbers because it sounds like we know this information. T of n equals the initial value, which is 1,000, plus, because we're increasing, so plus makes sense. If we were decreasing, I could use a minus, so I'm just using what makes sense in the situation here. The adder, we're adding by 150, so 150, n. Notice it's not a power of n. If I go back to my template back that I was copying from on page 3, it wasn't a power n for arithmetic. Arithmetic was just a regular n that's next to the adder, so hence the regular n, not the power that I wrote. But that equation, I think, can do me some good. Because now I can think to myself, hey, wait a minute, I know the pattern. So I'm going to challenge you for a second to try to do something on your own. If you can, try to use this equation or this pattern for 2 things. Try to do the table and fill in the rest of the missing values. And try to do question letter D. try to fill in how many cookies will be sold 1 year after the debut. So just like we did in the previous question, a year is a long time from now. I don't know if you want to continue your table that far. Maybe you can use the equation to help. If you don't know how to do that, in the next video I'll walk you through, but hopefully if you simply try it on your own and maybe use the answer key as a bit of a guide, you can figure this out without having to watch the next video at all. Give it a go.